Mistakes in Peppa Pig are never ending, and so are our videos spotting them. So in this video, we're going to check out some hilarious new animation mistakes that we've spotted in the series. Like in the episode Grandpa's Little Train, Grandpa Pig has built a fantastic little train called Gertrude. And while riding the train, Peppa and George meet their friends and they bring them along for the trip. Now let's look at the characters sitting in the front coach of the train. It's Peppa, George, Richard Rabbit, Danny Dog, and Zoe Zebra. So far so good. But the mistake is, right when the train starts running and we move on to the next frame, Candy Cat and Richard Rabbit have now swapped places. They definitely didn't switch seats while the train was running, right? Now let's take a trip to Mummy Pig's magical kitchen, where things tend to appear and disappear out of nowhere. In the episode Pretend Friend, Susie Sheep has come to play with Peppa and has made up a pretend friend called Leo Lion. After playing in the garden for a while, Mummy Pig calls them to eat some fruitcake. Now look carefully. Here we can see Mummy Pig has cut out 2 pieces of cake, one for Peppa and another for Susie. And if we look at the cake, it seems like someone has taken 2 pieces out of it. So far so good. But the mistake is, moments later, Mummy Pig cuts one more piece of cake and gives it to Susie's pretend friend. So now, there are 3 total slices of cake, right? But the mistake is, if we look at the cake here, its size is similar to before, when there were only 2 pieces cut from it. Here, we can see the cake before and after is the same size, even though 1 extra slice was cut. Seriously, Mummy Pig's magical kitchen never ceases to amaze us. In the episode, the baby piggy, Peppa and George, are visiting their big cousin Chloe. And we'll get to meet Chloe's new baby brother, Alexander, for the first time. Later in the episode, Peppa's friends also come to see baby Alexander. Right here, we can see that Susie is standing behind Zoe Zebra. But when the scene zooms out, Susie Sheep magically appears in front of Zoe Zebra. In the episode Grampy Rabbit's Lighthouse, Grandad Dog takes Peppa Pig, George Pig, and Danny Dog to visit and learn more about Grampy Rabbit's lighthouse. And when they arrive at the lighthouse, we can notice that Grandad Dog has a clean vest. He has nothing on it, right? But in the next scene, when Grandad Dog is giving Grampy Rabbit some items, we can notice that he has got mud stain on his shirt and face. Like, how's this even possible? The mud stain literally came out of nowhere. Going back to the episode Pretend Friend, when Peppa and Susie are playing in Peppa's room, Daddy Pig comes in to meet Susie's pretend friend. Focus on this toy basket in front of Daddy Pig. Remember, the toy basket is in front of Daddy Pig. But seconds later, when the scene zooms out, the toy basket is now behind Daddy Pig. Did the basket crawl on its own? In the episode Jumble Sale, Peppa's playgroup is holding a jumble sale to raise money for a new roof. Madame Gazelle asks everyone to bring something to sell. Peppa and each of her friends bring in an old toy. Later in the episode, we can notice Madame Gazelle, Mummy Cat, and Miss Rabbit behind the table filled with various items. Now let's take a look at Mummy Cat's table. Here, we can notice that a toy plane is at one end of the table and a Jack-in-the-Box is at the other end. But when scene zooms onto her, all of a sudden, the Jack-in-the-Box is now next to the toy plane, but earlier, it was on the other side of the table. Within a split second, it switched its position. Don't forget to leave a like if you have made this far in the video. In the episode Sports Day, it is the sports day at Peppa's school, and the first event is running. While everyone is taking their running stance, Peppa and Susie argue about who is faster. While they argue, the race starts, and Daddy Pig shouts out that the race has already started. Then only Peppa and Susie start running, but it's too late, and the winner is Rebecca Rabbit. Now look carefully. When Rebecca Rabbit is presented with the trophy, everyone cheers for her, and Susie Sheep is also one of them. But the issue is, seconds later, when the scene switches, we see Peppa and Susie still on the racetrack arguing with each other. But moments ago, Susie Sheep was with all the students cheering for Rebecca. Did she teleport? Moving on, the episode The Perfect Day isn't that perfect at all, because we spotted several animation errors in it. Here, Peppa and her family go to the mall, so that Mummy Pig can have a perfect day experience. When the pig family enters Miss Rabbit's spa, we can notice that Mr. Bull is also there getting a massage. Moments later, Peppa, George, and Daddy Pig exit the spa to explore the mall, and while they are doing so, they walk by a china shop, and in the china shop we can see Mr. Bull. But just a moment ago, he was at the spa, getting a massage. Did he just teleport? And that's not all. While exploring the mall, Peppa meets Susie, and they decide to take some funny pictures in the photo booth. If we look carefully, we can notice paintings on both sides of the photo booth. But the mistake is, when they exit the photo booth, the paintings are not there anymore. But earlier, we clearly saw 2 paintings on either side of the booth. But wait, there's one more mistake left in this episode. After having a perfect day, the pig family exits the mall. And if we look at the entrance of the mall, we can notice there are 3 symbols placed on either side of the door. But the issue is, earlier when the pig family was entering the mall, on the left side, there were 4 symbols, not just 3. Going back to the episode Jumble Sale, when Peppa and her friends buy the same items that they donated, they go on to tell Mummy Pig about it. Notice on the table behind them, there's a chocolate cake towards the left side. But the mistake is, moments later when Daddy Pig enters the classroom, the chocolate cake disappears. I don't think they were able to devour the entire cake within seconds. In one of the episodes where Peppa and her friends make their own musical instruments, we noticed a funny mistake. Right at the beginning of the episode, we see the kids playing different musical instruments, while Madame Gazelle is watching them. And if we look right behind Madame Gazelle, we can notice a glass filled with colored pencils. But the mistake is, moments later, when Madame Gazelle brings out a box, the glass behind her disappears. But a few seconds later, the glass filled with colored pencils reappears. In the episode Sailing Boat, Peppa and George go sailing with Grandpa Pig. They get on his boat and realize there is no tide to sail. Soon, the tide comes, and the 3 pigs happily sail. But later in the episode, they lose the tide and get stranded in the sea. Now look carefully. When Grandpa Pig is calling Grandma Pig, if we zoom onto the deck, we can notice there is no hatch there. But seconds later, when the scene zooms in, a hatch magically appears in front of Grandpa Pig. And that's not all. Later, when Peppa and George go to bed, we can notice they go to the bed wearing life jacket on top of their regular clothes. But the next morning, when Peppa wakes up, we can notice she's now wearing her nightgown. Maybe she changed her clothes in her dreams. In the episode Grandpa Pig's Greenhouse, Peppa and George are at Grandpa Pig's house, exploring the greenhouse. And in one of the scenes where Grandpa Pig is throwing the football at Grandad Dog's greenhouse, we can notice a watering can and some flower pots that are upside down. But the mistake is, when Grandad Dog kicks the football back to Grandpa Pig, we can notice the flower pots and the watering can have disappeared. But earlier, they were right there. And that's not all. Later in the episode, when Peppa, George, and Grandpa Pig enter the greenhouse, we can notice the watering can and the upside-down flower pots beside this giant plant. But if we go back to the beginning of the episode, we can see there were no such objects anywhere near the giant plant. Maybe the watering can and the upside-down flower pots walked into the greenhouse on their own. So, these were some of the animation errors that we spotted in Peppa Pig. And as always, we'll see you all in the next video.